welcome back to the Gold Digger Girl podcast. I'm so excited to bring a special guest today, Ashley Stahl. She's a rock star. She's amazing. I'm already inspired by her, but I know you guys are going to be as well. And we're going to do this as a podcast. We're going to have it on YouTube so you get to see the visual as well. But I just want to first off welcome you, Ashley, for being here. I'm so excited to have you. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you
this.
so much for having me. I'm so excited to be with you. I can feel how abundant you are as a person. And I just think that this kind of energy just translates into a lot of service for everybody listening. So
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And we just seeing how you show up on social and how you built your audience. And I don't do many podcast interviews like we talked about. And when I was getting to know you and learning about you, I was like, I feel like you have gone about it a different way, the way you built your brand
Yeah.
and kind of what your passion and focus is different than mine. And it really complements what I do. And I know my ladies in the audience, this might be the thing that they're like, oh my gosh, yes, this is what I need to do. So really excited to like guide them to that in this conversation. But just to start, since you might be new to some of them, why don't you introduce yourself as far as like who you are, your background, and what got you to where you are today?
Okay. So I grew up in a house where the news was always on. And from a young age, I kind of was aware of what was going on in the world. And so it's interesting because I wrote a book I wrote it in like 2018. It came out in 2021. And I opened up my book at preschool graduation, and the principal said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I remember saying on stage, "I want to be a mom and I want to be a poet." And it's funny because I grew up in this house, very politically aware household. One side of the family is super one way up the political aisle, the other side is the other way. They all fight on Sundays. And I was always kind of like a neutral observer. And I kind of formed my opinions loosely. And it just felt like I was meant in some way to make an impact. I always was curious about people. I was always good at learning foreign languages. And so after 9/11 happened, I just decided I was going to be a part of the solution. I've always had like a mama bear inside of me, like a protector. And I thought this is one way that I get to protect people. And I poured everything into my national security career, ended up at the Pentagon in the Obama administration, and was on the path. I wanted to help catch Osama bin Laden. And I was working on an Afghanistan project and got my security clearance. And the whole time along, I felt like, wow, this isn't as me as I thought it would be. Meanwhile, so many people were asking me for help with their job hunt because it was the recession and nobody could get job offers. And so that launched me into a career coaching business. People would say all the time, you should be a career coach. And I remember thinking, like, what even is a career coach? It was like 2012. I remember thinking, like, is this somebody that stands outside your office and like cheers for you as you go in? Like, I just didn't even understand the idea
Do you
of it.
smell good? Yeah.
Yeah, like just a pep talker. I didn't know. So I ended up starting that business. That translated into 10,000 students, online courses, how to get a job. I became an expert at writing webinar scripts, and people started asking me to write their webinars. And then I had this huge failure. My business totally fell apart because I didn't know how to manage money. I was 26 and made $6 million of revenue in 2 months off of a
Oh,
webinar doing well,
wow.
and had no idea what I was doing other than just like beginner's mind, like a lot of grit, a lot of willing
Yeah.
to push. And meanwhile, I got my first TEDx talk when I was at the Pentagon, and it was the first talk of my life before I started my career coaching business. And they were like, talk about national security. And I found one of Obama's speechwriters and said, hey, can you help me outline this? Because I've never given a speech in my life. And they gave me this structure. The talk ended up going viral, but I totally pulled a doozy on TEDx and got on stage and turned it into a career coaching TEDx talk. So I launched my career coaching brand, and I ended up having a wait list from there on out. Like the talk came out like, 6 months later, and I probably made about $1 million in revenue in my coaching business over 10 years through that one TEDx talk. And I was always kind of embarrassed by it in the sense where it was the first talk I ever gave in my life. Like, can you imagine your first time
Yeah.
at that
No.
going everywhere? So, the career coaching business rose, my private practice did well, didn't know how to manage money, lost everything. And then I gave a second TEDx talk in 2019. And I did it because number one, I had my book coming out. I had a book deal called U-Turn. It was all about reconnecting to yourself. The message of the book was don't do what you love, don't follow your passion. Instead, do what you are. And it had a whole body of work on how to figure out your career direction. And I was like, it's time for me to do another one. And I need to redeem myself with myself because I cringe at this 2012 version of me on stage.
Grown a little bit since then.
Literally, I was even wearing pants in 2012 on the stage that broke the day before, and I had the dry cleaner sew them back together like they legitimately didn't fit. So I just was a different person by that point. And I knew it would go viral because I poured myself into it. And what I learned was that going viral is not easy, but it is simple. You simply write the best talk of your life. Excellence cuts through the noise. And so I went on stage, I practiced really hard, I gave it my all. And guess what? It went online and it didn't go viral. Nobody watched it for like 6 months. And then 6 months later, it randomly started going so viral. It wasn't like anything happened, it just picked up. And now I'm one of the top 100 TEDx talks on the internet. And it has attracted a 4-year spokesperson deal from SoFi, the fintech company. It has attracted, I mean, millions of dollars in brands deals. I've tripled my keynote fees. I got a speaking agent that it attracted, multiple book deal offers, consistent podcast listeners and book sales. It just has changed my life. And I realized in my personal brand that there are so many women, especially, that we are fighting really hard in our business. We are pushing, we are creating, we are outputting. And when I saw what the TEDx did, it put me in a position in my personal brand from pushing and trying to make things happen into attracting and creating opportunities for myself, all in a one and done. And I looked at my brand and I thought, wow, I have written 700 blogs as a Forbes columnist for 10 years. And not one of them has done anything near what this TEDx talk in 12 minutes has done for me. And from there on out, I started telling my coaching clients, you need to do one of these. They're insane. Coached about 40 clients on writing their talk. I said, use as many sessions with me as you want. Referred them to a woman that I knew booked people on stage for TEDx. She had almost 100% success. She could not book one out of those 40 people. So 39 got on stage for TEDx for my booker. One didn't make it because she had a very thick Italian accent and the curators couldn't understand her English.
Okay.
So she ended up just doing it as a keynote in Italy. But after seeing that, I put it under one roof, and now we have Wise Whisper Agency. And we have written more than 100 TEDx talks as a team and a couple TED Talks. And we also have placed more than 1,200 speakers. Our booking team is a team of 6, and they've placed more than 1,200 people on stage for the past 10 years. And so I'm really proud that we are kind of giving people who've worked really hard a shortcut in their personal brand. And they haven't taken the shortcut in so many other places. So now I have my agency, and over the span of 4 calls, we pull everything we possibly can out of people and we get them on stage for TEDx and we write their talk.
Oh my gosh, it's like
What a journey.
story. What a journey is right. And I mean, just all the things you've gone through. And we'll include your book and stuff like that. I highly recommend you guys all grab it. Is U-Turn the book, and then are there any others? Is that what you have so far that I can include?
It's a bright yellow book. It's spelled
Okay.
YOU, and it's Get Unstuck, Discover Your Direction, Design Your Dream Career. And then my podcast is called U-Turn Podcast. So it's
Okay,
just kind of
cool. Because I was just doing a couple coaching calls, group coaching before this, and one of the programs, it's more like mindset. They're all here to build businesses, but right now we're heavily in mindset. And it came up a couple times of like, how do I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing? Because I don't feel it, and I feel like I'm pushing, pushing and pushing. I'm like, when you get in alignment with what you want to do, it kind of flows. You're excited to work on it. And so what's cool, we can include your book as like a resource for them, because I haven't had something to be able to say, go read this. Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer. I always say his name wrong. Anyways, I always give them that one to read, but this one
I've
sounds
never read that.
more relevant. Yeah. Yeah. This sounds more relevant as far as my ladies and your background and all of that. So I'd recommend you guys all go read that and obviously listen to her podcast. So when you were 26, I think you said, and you had launched the webinar and everything went crazy. So tell us what that was like. I do have quite a few ladies in my audience have had success in the corporate space. And there's this big part of them that is actually afraid of success. And they say, what do I do if like I get too many customers and let people down? I mean, sure, it was a ish show in the background when that happened. So what would you say to those that are like feel like they're afraid of failing, they're afraid of even having success? And when you look back now, you know you had to go through that. There was
Yeah.
some lessons that had to be learned, but how did you get yourself back up? And what would you say to them as far as encouragement?
It's so hard because I feel like life is such a journey. Our purpose moves, like who we are moves. We all have seasons, and in the same way a
I
plant
just got
grows,
chills.
changes. I just think it's such a pain point. Like people try to create like a straight path. They try to have a plan. But the worst thing you could do, I think a lot of people almost feel like they're moving forward when they have plans, but sometimes you're actually moving backward if it's not the right thing for you. I think your career kind of has three different lily pads. The first lily pad is kind of what most people are stuck on, which is I'm fine. This is paying the bills. Some people are fine and they mean it, and it's fine to be fine. I think the self-development realm makes it not right to be fine, and I don't agree with that. I think sometimes it's just okay to be fine, like moving along. Other times people say they're fine, but they're just not in touch with their pain.
Okay.
And they're stuck in something that isn't right for them. The second lily pad, which I really try to help people with my book and my work, is getting people over to kind of that message of don't follow your passion, because I'm passionate about massages and cupcakes, but I'd be a horrible masseuse and baker. Like, don't follow
Okay.
your passion. Instead, know who you are, know what your zone of genius is. That's what my book really tries to teach people. And when we get you to that second lily pad, you swim on over there, you do the self-discovery work, whether it's reading books, taking courses, getting to know yourself, whatever it is, your life becomes a filter, and your career becomes a game of yes or no. Because when you're really gifted and you're working in your zone of genius, people notice you. Like I was just hiring a new operations person for my agency because we have so many TEDx talks we're writing and booking for people right now. And it was so interesting. It was like one woman applied and she had a name of a friend on her resume. Contacted the friend, hey, was she great for you? She's like, this woman has so much excellence. Don't even interview anybody else. You're so lucky she applied to work with you. Done. Her zone of genius has freed me up so much. And people notice talent like that. And when you have talent
Yes.
like that, your life becomes a filter game of like, do I want to do this? Do I not? Because people are attracted to you. And
Hmm.
career path becomes formed by what you say yes or no to. I think
Hmm.
the third lily pad is really about Dharma. Like when I was writing my book, when I'm editing a TEDx talk for speakers who come in, it feels like time is just non-existent. I kind of like get myself up from my computer. I think of people like Kobe Bryant. It's like people who like you can really hear there's like a higher calling and being to what they're doing and pull towards it. And I don't think everybody makes it over to that. And I'm not an idealistic person to the point where I would say everybody can go there. I think some people, there's enough fulfillment in being on the second lily pad where you're working on your zone of genius. And the pressure to love what you do, I think, is really getting people off track. It's not
Hmm.
about like, love is a very strong word. I think you should really like what you're doing. And most importantly, growing your skill set, your zone of genius, and sharpening your tools. And
Hmm.
so, when it comes to people who are maybe in between, I think that's why I love working in personal branding because I think everybody needs a brand, even if you don't know what you're doing, even if you don't know what you want to sell if you're an entrepreneur, if you even want to be an entrepreneur, what you want to do next in corporate. I think anybody can sit and go inward and say, what do I love talking about? What is mildly relevant to the career that I've had or I want to have? If I don't know the career I want to have, what is the skill set that I know? What is an interest that I have? How can I start putting content out there? And you have to remember the internet is like a bunch of islands, right? Like personal branding is about conquering those islands. So, the podcasting is an island, whether you have a podcast and you have a bunch of episodes or you go on a guesting tour and you're on a bunch of podcasts. Forbes, blogs, those are islands, right? Like I put 700 blogs on Forbes. That is literally a massive island I've built over 10 years. TEDx is an island. I have 10 different talks on there and they keep bringing people into my world, right? And so When I look back on my business, I've probably spent 1 to 2 years per island building it out. And the reason I'm so passionate about TEDx is because I think it's an island that you have the opportunity to go viral and be put in more feminine energy in your career faster instead of pursuing all the time attracting. And so I'm really passionate about helping people get their place on the red dot because I think that when they step on the TEDx stage, they have an algorithmic opportunity to go further than anywhere else they can. And that 80/20 ROI is what I'm really interested in helping people with because it's changed my life so much.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting because when we're trying to get to the root of what the brand is about, because, without the brand dialed in, we can't get the clarity in the content. And then if without the clarity in the content, the messaging isn't on point, you're not going to attract people to you. So going back to the brand, I always say, if I said you get to speak on stage for 3 hours, your ideal avatars in the audience, pen and paper poised, they're so excited. What would you talk about? It's not your protein powder, I'm sorry, or a collagen. So is that part of the process that they go through with you and your team is
Yeah.
to figure out that thing that they're passionate about, that they can share that message with the world? Because I feel like a lot of people don't even get to that, but it could mean everything for them if they can like build the whole thing around this message, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people know they have the kind of clients that we work with are people that know they have a message inside of them, but they don't exactly know what it is. I also think the TEDx platform, there's a lot of like TEDx coaches and people that coach around this idea of what is your one big idea. I really don't like doing that and I don't approach it that way. So the way
Okay.
that I see TEDx, I don't see it as a TEDx talk. I see it as a YouTube talk. YouTube owns the house. TEDx is the bouncer at the door. So when you take a very talented speaker or communicator, or not even a talented communicator, but somebody who has something to say, and you tell them, what's your one big idea? It just obscures and corners them into thinking a certain way. I like to ask clients, what is your like topic of work? Like how do you want this talk to help you, right? Like do you want more leads? Do you want to leave a legacy? What do you want from it? And then what topic is going to help you position yourself to get what you want from it, right? So we have a leadership coach right now. She goes into corporations. We're doing a talk for her about burnout because that's what she's helping a lot of employees with. And she's helping corporate get their employees more into leadership, more into being engaged in their jobs. So we're doing a talk about burnout. She would have never thought that that was the topic of her TEDx, but a
Right.
lot of my work is helping her loosen her arms around this idea of this one big idea. So if we're doing it about burnout, the bigger question I have for her is what is the most original thinking you have? What is the most original way you've helped people? What's the most interesting high ROI way you've stepped in to show people the impact? That's the kind of content I want to pull out of her, not the what is your one big idea. Granted, our booker really does need to book the talk, right? Once we get it written. And we write
Right.
the TEDx talk over 4 Zoom calls with clients. They show up, we extract information, we go behind the scenes and write the talk, keep coming back as touch points to get their feedback. Once it's final, we make their PowerPoint, their bio, their titles, all that kind of stuff, and we hand it off to the booking team. The booking team does want to see something around their one big idea. But the funny thing about that is that we can really go back into the talk. And once we look at the whole talk, we look at the original content, we look at what she's really trying to say, the big idea gets really clear anyway. And we're able to just pepper it in and please the bouncer at the door for YouTube, which is TEDx, right? So we'll pepper it in, give the people what they want, and go on our merry way. So for me, viral talks go viral because not only is the title really good, you're not going to get a click unless the title is appealing, which is why we do that, but also the content. And so part of the content is the quality of storytelling, which we take on. The other part of the content that really does well, which is more about the client, is the quality of thinking. Like what is the person really saying? How are they helping people? I went to graduate school for psychology. I didn't get my hours to be a therapist, but I do help a lot of clients figure out, well, what's really magical that I'm hearing you say. And we have coaches on the team helping in the first session, especially on Zoom, to direct the direction of the talk. But I would say people come in and they don't need to know this is my one big message. This is the topic of my talk. They just need to know I've had enough experience to have something to say. I want to up my game and my personal brand, and that's it. And I would say our clients are all across the board. We've got New York Times bestselling doctors, Peter Attia, for example. He's not a client, but he's an example of the caliber of. And then we have activists. We have a woman in veterinary school who's doing a talk about dogs and fostering dogs. So it's across the board, but it's that you need to want to invest in your brand and you believe that you have something coming out of your heart that we can pull out of you.
That's awesome. And I've had different people who've wondered about like investing in PR and different things. And I did it the other way, like more organic, and started and it was able like the magazine features and stuff like that have all come in where I know you can go out there and even, Forbes and stuff like that. But there's opportunities to have articles published and stuff like that. Like you said with the blogging, like that never ever got me anything. And
Yeah.
so I think for those of you that maybe have tried before to invest in PR, think of this as a way where you can almost trump all of that times 100. It's like putting that one thing out there. But what I really love about this is I honestly feel like the work that they have to do this will be the foundation for them to build a long-term sustainable brand. And the work that you would do to be able to bring this message out is going to give you the content that you need to create your strategy for social media. So like literally is like where everybody should start. So it's kind of neat that our paths cross because I'm like, wait, what? Like this is so what I believe in. And I think that for those of you that have been floating around and you feel like you haven't cracked the code yet, or should you even be doing this and going for this dream of building a brand? Yes, you should. I really believe it. If it's in your heart, it's divinely planted. And we just have to pull that out and figure out what that looks like. So when people work with you, they get booked, they do the speech, goes on YouTube. Is there anything else that anything you've seen that's worked for those that have had success with views and opportunities? Do you guys do anything in the back end? Any final thing you want to say as far as what their experience would be?
Yeah, I think that one of the most potent things I've seen happen in our brainstorms is we've coined terms that become book titles or book deals. So, for example, Stephanie May Wilson is a client who's been nice enough to give us a testimonial. And she has a movement right now called the everything era. It's all about your 20s and 30s and how that's a time in your life that you have to make the most important decisions. I think the research indicates around 80% of your life decisions in your 20s and 30s that impact your trajectory. So she's called it the everything era. And that's had a really big influence in the programs, the book she's going to create, the work. And so I think sometimes the coaching and the direction that we come up with TEDx influences kind of the direction of who you're going to become in the future. Because we're writing a TEDx talk with the intention of not just who you are today, but who you're becoming in your brand. And so I think that rubs off on people who come in. And that's something that we're really proud of. I think, the experience with us isn't worth the investment if you don't have revenue. I don't like people going broke to invest in their brand. I've
Right.
been in a phase as an entrepreneur where it doesn't make sense. But I think if you have real revenue, TEDx is a given. If you want more speaking engagements, brand deals, book deals, whatever have you, you've got a shot at going viral unlike any other. And all it counts is that you give it your best, whatever that
Mhm.
means for you. That means the writing of the talk and the practice of it, getting on stage, remembering that you're a performer. Like I saw Hamilton in New York and I was noticing the tickets on Thursday are the same price as Friday and Saturday. It's because they're consistent. What you get on Thursday, what you pay for, you're going to get the same performance on Friday. Excellent speakers have practiced so well that they deliver consistently. They're not channeling, they're not searching for their words. They have it down. And so we really try to impart that excellence upon the speakers because I think in a world where personal branding has become a little bit too many like Tinder swindler, inventing Anna, press the blue button and in a giveaway, and now you have fake followers. Like we are really working to be an agency that shows up as that shortcut in personal branding for people who have really taken the long cut in their career. They've really shown up to do something that's powerful, and they don't have the time to do this whole thing because it is a lot of work to get a TEDx talk and book it, but it's even more work to write tens and tens of blog posts that get you nowhere. I do think PR gets you credibility, and I think
Yeah.
credibility does get you sales. But I think there's a tipping point where after like 5 TV interviews and 10 blog posts, You don't really need more blog posts or TV interviews, and they're not getting people calling you.
Right.
They're just getting you looking legitimate when people Google you. So I
Yeah.
think that TEDx is what actually brings you leads that want to buy from you. And that to me is something that I'm super alive about.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Okay. Well, we're going to include some links below. So if they're listening or watching and they're like, I'm in, I want to work with her, what would be their next steps?
Yeah, everything you want to know about what we're doing is at ashleystahl.com/TEDx.
Okay.
And we want to give you $1,000 off. So if you let me know you come from Kimberly, as long as you reach out within 2 weeks of this or 2 months, sorry, 2 months of this episode airing, we will give you the $1,000 off. Just let us know again that you come from Kimberly.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm honored to be here and really grateful that you took the time to talk to me about something I'm so alive about.
Yeah, it's awesome. And thank you for the discount, you guys. I think that's our biggest discount we've been able to extend to our
Love
audience.
that.
So outside of internal ones. So thank you so much. And yeah, if you guys this was helpful, take a screenshot, share it on social, tag me at the Gold Digger Girl, tag Ashley, it's her name. You guys can see it on the thing, Ashley Stahl on Instagram. Give her a tag as well, for we can shout you guys out, just letting us know your favorite takeaways from the episode. Really appreciate that as well. So Ashley, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, guys, until next time, get lit in your business and set your soul on fire. We'll see you soon.